Welcome into the Big Chief Show. I'm your host, Fred Davis, alongside the one, the only, the founder of TakingVegas.com, the one, the only, Mr. Chris Hodge. And Chris, happy Saturday to you, my friend. And look, folks around the betting world are probably sitting there saying to themselves this morning, like, look, it's not every day that we see Chris on YouTube on a Saturday morning. We're used to hearing, we're not used to seeing that pretty face. We're used to hearing those dulcet tones. So I do appreciate you. You, like a lot of folks, are taking time off after what's been a grind of an NFL football season. Before we get to the Super Bowl and we recap that, and look, like you and I talked about before the show, again, we're not going to get knee deep into this whole thing. I mean, look, everybody's beat this thing together. Obviously, if you're a 49er fan, you're hating Kyle Shanahan right now. I'll get your thoughts on that here in just a second. I'm not going to beat this guy up for as much as everybody else. I'm not as torn about the, taking the ball in that overtime. I get why you shouldn't, but at the same time, too, your defense just got gashed, so I can see both sides of it. But from a football perspective, Chris, when you look at the 2023 season, the ups, the downs, the fact that, we had a season where, at any given time, it seemed like there was a different front runner, and then boom, the Chiefs go ahead and win the whole damn thing when it's all said and done. What's kind of your early snap judgment of the 2023 NFL season that was?
I thought it was a great season. I really did. I thought the season was fascinating. Great stories. Obviously, Baltimore was a great story. I think Miami was a great story when they put up 70. I mean, that was great.
That's right. We forget they put up 70 in week 3.
70, and I think the cream rose to the top. Yeah. I really do, as it usually does in that league. That's why I love that league so much, because that's generally what happens, right? So
it really is. You're not going to get many Cinderellas in the NFL.
You don't, and that's a fun story. Whenever that happens, that's fun. But I think, I think Detroit was a nice story. I think Miami was a nice story. I think everyone expected San Francisco to go to the Super Bowl. I think people in for the AFC were, it was one of 3 teams, Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore. I would think was what with the preseason. One of those teams went, and then at the end of the day, the best quarterback in the league won. And that's what we said a couple weeks ago on your show. Go force you to beat Mahomes.
That's it.
Bet Kansas City and force the guy to beat Mahomes. And I don't think Brock Purdy played a bad game by any stretch.
I thought Brock Purdy was incredible.
He could have beat Mahomes.
He just couldn't. And you know what? Here's a question I got for you as well, right? So, and we talked a little bit about it after the Baltimore game, was that Todd Monken, for whatever reason, decided, okay, we're going to go ahead and instead of relying on our best-in-class run game, we're going to go ahead and let Lamar Jackson go tit for tat with Pat Mahomes, and guess what? That never works out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Chiefs did the same. 49ers did the same thing.
49ers did the exact same thing.
Makes no sense.
They did. Now, I will say this. They were better about running the ball in the first half. And ironically, you go to half with a 10-3 lead. Okay?
Why do you change?
And so I just wonder, and my thought process on it is this. I feel like Pat Mahomes has gotten into the head of offensive coordinators and teams to the point where he has almost seduced them. It's almost like, when you're in back in the day when like maybe you're in the desert and you start seeing hallucinations. That's what Pat Mahomes is doing to offensive coordinators. He's making them hallucinate and to think, we can't rely on what got us here. I have to go tit for tat with this guy. I have to score. And rather than, look, Chris, you know this. What is the one strategy that has been almost invincible in beating Pat Mahomes? Keeping him on the sideline.
But how do you do that? You run the ball.
If you and I know that, how do they? But it just goes to show, I don't care if you're a high school, Pop Warner, it doesn't matter. There's something about ego. There's something about nerves that suddenly what got you there, things start clinching up, and then it's like, and then boom, next thing you know, you're giving the ball to the best quarterback in the world at the end and hoping your defense can stop him. And Chris, I don't know about you, but that's not a good strategy.
No, the last time, we did your show, we said if he has the ball and he has to go down and score,
bro,
he's going to do it. He did it twice.
Did it twice.
Regulation. He went down, scored a winner. He's going to do it. You said earlier you weren't going to kill Shanahan. I hate doing that because I do think he's a fine coach.
You're a nice guy.
He's got a good record. They make it there every year. But the fact of the matter is this. He's 0-3 in Super Bowls he's coached. And in the fourth quarter and overtime of those games, his teams have been outscored 46-0. Now, he's the offensive coordinator when he's with Atlanta when they blow the biggest lead in the history of the world. Okay, He screws that up. All right? I had a 10-point lead, obviously, against Kansas City the first time, screws that up. I mean, sooner or later, you got to close out one of these games. You have to.
You absolutely do. And look, and of course the funny or popular recourse all week has been that Kyle Shanahan is now what Andy Reid was in Philadelphia.
And I think that's good. I mean, look, he was good.
It makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of similarities to this. And the only thing I'm going to say about Shanahan is this. Yes, he should have ran the ball against Atlanta. I'm not mad at him for that. But there is something to be said for, and again, this is me kind of just, if I had to defend him in, court of public opinion, the only thing I'm going to say is this. He had the worst quarterback each time.
He did.
Tom Brady was better than Matt Ryan. He got beat by. I mean, the only thing and this is where I think people are kind of, not giving him. I'm not saying you should give him a pass because I'm with you on that. But he's lost to the two greatest quarterbacks of our lifetime, and I think when it's all said and done, I think you're going to be able to argue he lost to the two greatest coaches in our lifetime in Bill Belichick. And I mean, let's call it what it is. You could argue he's lost to the best offensive and best defensive coach of all time. Yeah. I don't think it's a stretch to say that either way. So, again, like you said, you got to break through at some point, Chris. And again, we lambasted our boy Andy Reid for this for a long time. And there's also something to be said in sports, and you know this. There's something to be said for at some point you just have to break through. But like you and I talked about the last show, as you alluded to about that guy behind you, a lot of greats got denied championships in the 90s because guess what? The dude behind you was sure as hell hard to beat.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean, a Pat Ewing or Reggie Miller or, Stockton, Malone. These guys weren't all-time great Hall of Fame players.
Absolutely.
They didn't win. The problem I had with that particular game with what Shanahan did was they were down 13-10 late in the third quarter, maybe early in the fourth quarter. They were down 13-10.
I think it was.
And 4th and 3, I believe it was on their 15. They went for it. It worked. Yeah. They scored a touchdown, right? So they could have kicked the field goal to tie the game. They went for the touchdown, right? Which is fine. Me personally, I kicked the field goal there, but it worked, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now if you're going to do that and you're going to take the ball first in overtime, why the hell are you kicking a field goal on 4th and 3 or 4 at the 9? Because if you kick a field goal, you're giving Mahomes the ball back. You're just going to kick the ball into the end zone. So you're giving them the ball back at the 25. So here's my point to this. Let's say you go for it and you don't get it. Now you give Mahomes the ball back and so you don't get a yard. You give him the ball back at the 9. He's got to go 50 yards to get him in field goal range. I would have went for the touchdown there. I don't know. Kicking a field goal, you're just giving the game to the Chiefs right there.
I guess the only and look, and again, you and I are playing. I mean, we're doing the same thing everybody else is doing. I mean, and that's the thing about this game was that there were so many different angles that you could attack, and it's funny how the specter has been raised because, like you said, I mean, in most cases, I mean, look, we went from in the championship game, the NFC, you got to take that field goal to you got to score a touchdown.
Okay, right? So a little bit of a different situation there, right? So
they're up. You're right.
They're up 14 in that game.
Exactly.
You go up 3 scores with 20 minutes left in the game.
That's you're in good shape
now. Here's my point. Every person that watches the NFL, follows the NFL, and knows the NFL knows that Pat Mahomes is by far the best quarterback in the league. We also know that you do not want to give those type of quarterbacks because they're so rare. But you give those guys the ball back last to beat you, they're going to beat you. The Bradys, the Mannings, the Rodgers, the Montanas, the greats, and Mahomes is certainly in that class, if not second in that class, and maybe first now. Like I look at my wife. You think, yeah, you can't put him above Brady yet, but he's getting close. He's getting
Here's the only thing I'll say about that, why I don't think you'll ever be able to put him over Brady. And I it pains me to say this, but Brady and Mahomes are the one kind of like, and really, I mean, I don't know that we really have a better example. Think about it. Michael never played Kobe in an NBA Finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know he didn't play Bill Russell. Of course, he played Magic, but Magic was, kind of on the end, and really that was, towards the end of his career, right? And then, of course, I think it was he got HIV, the following year or whatever it was. I'm trying to think outside of that. I mean,
so when Brady played Mahomes, he beat him twice.
That's it. Now the argument. Now I won't hold necessarily the Chiefs' loss in the AFC Championship against Mahomes, because that was before they changed the playoff rule to where if you scored a touchdown, boom, the game was over. So right. Mahomes never got the ball back in that.
Mahomes also won a game like that too. He beat Buffalo with those.
Absolutely, exactly. So he's benefited from that as well. So I totally get it on that standpoint. But the Super Bowl, like, there is no argument about that. Right, like like I said, we can nitpick the AFC Championship game. I mean, hell, if there's no offsides penalty on dumbass D Ford, that game's over, right? So it's a weird dichotomy as to how Super Bowl wise, and I said this with Mad Dog the other day, and of course they cut me off. Right, tell you what, I wait fucking 45 minutes to get on with Adam Shine. Soon as he gets me on, he fucking drops me. Okay, drops me. I digress. Was it an accident? I don't know. Well, whatever. Anywho, but my thing was with that, and again, I think the Chiefs probably still lose, but the argument I got into with the producer was, I said, the one thing that we kind of forget though was that, Andy Reid's kid did nearly kill somebody that weekend, right? The week leading up to that game. He said, well, that wouldn't have mattered. Well, no, it did. I mean, I don't care who. I mean, if you're human and your coach's son, who's a member of the staff, nearly kills a child the week of the Super Bowl,
it doesn't help.
It doesn't help.
Doesn't help.
Okay? I mean,
Tempe's D-line in that game was dominant. But look, Brady's lost Super Bowls. Brady's lost 3. So I mean, and he lost 2 in just demoralized. In fact, she also beat Seattle in great fashion. But when I look at Pat Mahomes, I see the closest thing to Tom Brady. And what I mean by that is this, right?
Yeah.
There's many great quarterbacks in the league, right? But in a big spot, when you have to go down the field and score, and you are a fan, you did not want Tom Brady having the ball if you were an opposition. You did not want him having the ball. And I look at Pat Mahomes. There was no doubt in my mind watching the game, zero doubt, that before regulation ended, he was going down and either tying or winning the game. And then in overtime, the only way he wasn't going down to win that game is if he threw a completed pass and someone fumbled. Or someone dropped the ball and it was
tipped the ball or something like that. Yeah.
He wasn't making the mistake. He was going to make the plays because he's a great quarterback. And he
does.
He came back and beat them. So Shanahan should have known that. I don't know why they take the ball first. I really don't. Shanahan should have known you don't give this guy the ball last.
Well, or to your point, if you are going to take the ball first, you better go for a fucking touchdown at the end.
You better score.
You
better score because he's going to come beat you.
And I will say this too, piggybacking on that point, one team knew the overtime rules, one team didn't. And I know that may see, and I know people have said, well, it didn't really affect the game. Well, mindset-wise, it did. Because if you're talking about after the game how you were unprepared and didn't know, and the other team, they've said, hell, Travis Kelce said in an interview post, this past week, the Chiefs head of analytics guy briefed him on the overtime rules every week leading up to the Super Bowl.
So a couple plays here, right? So it was at the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I believe San Francisco had 3rd and 4. This is when they kicked the field goal to take the lead.
Right before the blitz on 3rd down, yes.
No, the blitz. Like this, the blitz they come up with, if you watch the blitz, Spagnuolo rushes 6. San Francisco had 6 to block it. The running back doesn't come across. He goes to the play side, and you get the free rusher for the deflection, right?
Yeah.
So great blitz by Spagnuolo. In overtime on the 3rd down play, watch the center, the guard, and the guard. They bang into each other. They go the wrong way. You got to watch the play. They literally go the wrong way, and Jones gets the free rush. So when you're talking about all of this in terms of preparation,
Yeah.
I mean, Kansas City looked so much more prepared. Especially, look,
As the game wore on.
Anyone could screw up a 3rd and 7 in the first quarter, right?
Yeah.
And anyone could screw that up, right? But you're talking about major important plays in the game. Like if San Francisco gets the first down at the end of regulation, they're going to win the game. They're going to run the clock down. They're going to kick a field goal. They're going to win the game, right? They come up with a blitz. They get them. Same thing in overtime.
When you know the blitz is coming, by the way.
It was such a great disguise. It was such a great disguise.
Oh.
Man. It was cover 2 man. It looked at all across the board. He rushed 6 against 6. 5 linemen and a running back. He sent to go watch the play, right? Anyone out there listening, go watch the play. He sent 6 against 6. He got a free rusher that wasn't even touched. And because someone slid the wrong way. So when you don't perform in important spots, to me, that's preparation. And that's part of the problem I have with Shanahan. I don't. And then, Wilkes got to go fall on the sword. He's got to fire Wilkes. Why? I don't know. I don't agree with that.
I don't know that you necessarily agree with it, but I would, he did have a great point. I did think they were playing awfully soft there towards the end. And I did think Tony Romo had a better game. I thought he did a pretty decent job commentating. I think you could tell he knew that, because, Tony Romo's caught a lot of shit this season, and rightfully so, because he said some just really stupid shit. And you're just like, for
look at it like this, right? Not to cut you. Look at it like this. The greatest quarterback of our generation right now, okay, it was Brady and Mahomes.
Yeah.
They had 16 points. They had 16 points with 2 minutes to go in the game. Yeah. Okay, they get the extra session. They scored a touchdown overtime. But if you're telling me, like if I'm Steve Wilkes, right, and I go into Shanahan's office before the game, or an hour, I say, hey, I'm going to hold him to 16 today. I'm going to hold him to 16. You got to feel really damn good if you're Kyle Shanahan. Really good.
You do. Well, I guess ultimately they held him to 19 for the game, but still.
They had 16 if they convert that 3rd down play, right? You're talking about
you're saying if they win the game and convert, then they go 19-16. Yes. Oh, absolutely. No, you're good. You're right.
Yeah, 16 with 2 minutes left. He gave up 1 damn touchdown in the game, and that touchdown was off a fumbled punt.
Yeah.
He gave up 1 touchdown before overtime.
I was going to say, outside of that, you're right.
Well, he lost to Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes figured out a way to beat him. That's going to cost you your job, really? There'll be a lot of D coordinators without jobs.
Look, you've been doing this a long time. There's always got to be a fall guy. All right.
Shanahan was the fall guy.
Should have been. You figure, and think about this. So he got rid of Anthony Lynn. Mm-hmm. He got rid of Steve Wilkes. Mm-hmm. I think he got rid of his O-line coach, and he got rid of Clint Kubiak. So, they ended up getting rid of like 5 or 6 people when it was all said and done. Look, I think you're right. I think there is something to be said about, the way he responds in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Again, he does get tight. And the one thing that my boy Henry Thomas said was, look, the knock on Kyle Shanahan is if you're the opposing team, he's going to fuck something up in the 4th quarter. Like, that's the reality.
So this guy on a national TV game got the doors blown off of him by Baltimore, right? On Christmas Day. Gets the doors blown off of him, right?
Yeah.
Green Bay now that the other 2 games of regular season, whatever once they beat Washington, they had it wrapped up, right? Go to Green Bay. Green Bay, everyone forgets. Green Bay missed a field goal in that game.
Green Bay should have won that game.
Green Bay should have won the game. They looked unprepared in that game. Green Bay looked just the talent. San Francisco was more talented.
That's it.
Detroit is going up and down the field on them and stopping them on defense. Detroit should have won that game. They had a call. They decide not to kick the field goal. Whatever. We've been over it. You're talking, let's say his last 4 big games: Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, and Kansas City. He's 2-2, and his team looked like the least prepared team in all 4 games. I don't think anyone could argue that.
No, I think you're spot on with that. I think you're exactly right.
Beat Washington. What do I care about that? We can figure out a way to beat Washington.
I was going to say if you can, but because that's what because you're exactly right. Because look, that's why you pay those guys the money you pay. Look, Andy Reid in his and you know what? And to your point, like let's take that and look at how the Chiefs get embarrassed on Christmas Day to the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And it was at that moment that Andy Reid says to his staff, okay, we got to change some things. We got to simplify some stuff. Like, we got to get back to basics and start really. And you notice from that game on, after that game, the Chiefs changed the way they played on offense. Defensively, it really didn't matter, right? Defensively, they were still rocking and rolling, right? I mean, hell, what's his face didn't complete a pass for the last 3 quarters of the game, for crying out loud, right? But what they did offensively, and notice too, guess what happened? Guys stopped dropping passes, and you had a lot fewer pre-snap penalties. Why? Because they prepared more and they focused on it more in practice, and you saw that difference. And so, to your point, Chris, for that, you saw one coaching staff make a monumental change in season that propels them to a Super Bowl versus a team that, I'm not going to say they rested on their laurels, but I think it was pretty safe to say, Chris, the level of preparation didn't change from one big game to the ultimate one.
Yeah, but if you look at Kansas City, right, like they caught a bad scheduling thing there with like 7 straight games where teams had extra days rest playing.
I saw that, yeah.
But here's the other thing. What were they, 11-6 in the regular season?
11-6. 11-6.
You lose the Buffalo game because Tony lines up off sides.
There's one.
You would have won that game. You lose the Philadelphia game because dude drops the ball in the end zone.
There's
okay.
Two.
So you're at 11-6. Okay, your Vegas kicks the hell out of you on Christmas Day, but you're at 11-6. I don't believe they showed up in Denver. I mean,
then you had 3, and then you had the Detroit game where if Tony doesn't have the ball go off his hands, you're in field goal range and you win that game. So that's correct. 3 games that we feel pretty confident that you're
supposed to win.
Now you're 14 and 3.
14-3.
You get
right?
a
Now you're looking at the Chiefs like now they have home field advantage in the playoffs. I believe they would have had it over there over Baltimore. If not, they're 2 seed, they would have had it over Buffalo. But it got to the point where I think with Kansas City, I'm not in the locker room, pure speculation, right? And that's sort of what we do here when we go on. It just got to the point where, hey, we know we're going to win the AFC West. We know we're getting a home playoff game, and we know we got the best quarterback in the world.
Yeah,
let's just get to the playoffs, and I don't think these teams are going to beat us.
And this year they can say, and we've got arguably the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean it's just the way it went.
And when you combine a world-class defense with a world-class quarterback and because and like I said, I listen to way too much sports radio. I heard somebody say, well, the Chiefs didn't have a championship roster. And I said, okay, let's think about that for a second.
What does that even mean?
Chiefs had the better D coordinator. Chiefs had the better head coach. Chiefs had the better quarterback. Chiefs had the better tight end. Chiefs had the better, you could argue, well, without question, had the better secondary. That's 5. And you pointed out when we were talking about it weeks ago, when you talked about what them over Baltimore or them over or them over Buffalo, like where Kansas City's individual matchups were better. And when you look at that, I mean, look, like you said, better D coordinator, better head coach, and better quarterback. I'm sorry, but you're going to win unless you turn the ball over. You're going to win.
Like, you got to say that, right? Like, when has this sport ever changed? For as many as they changed the rules and the sport opened up with the passing game, it's literally the same exact thing. If you have the best quarterback, you are always going to have a shot to win. Because take the season away where Brady played with Randy Moss, right? Take that season away where he threw for 100,000 yards or whatever the hell it was, right?
Yeah.
Take that season away. I mean, he played with good wide receivers, but not many wide receivers did much after him, like Edelman, Deion Branch, Amendola. Like, these guys were nice, but they're not, it's the same thing with Mahomes. Yeah, he has Kelce, but and he had Tyreek, but this year he had decent wide receivers. But if you're that good of a quarterback,
might be a stretch.
You know something? He putting the ball right on them. They played a good. Hey, look, we talked about the drop against Philadelphia. That was Scanling, right? Well, he makes the big play.
Who balled in the postseason? So MVS.
there's, when you have the best quarterback, and by the way, I don't really pay attention to ESPN much because I just think they're paid actors. I really believe that's what they are. They're just paid to say things to get ratings, but I forget who it was, but I thought he made a great point this week, and here it is. And I'm not trying to plagiarize this. So ESPN said this, right? So the difference between 1 and 2 at quarterback in this league right now is greater than the difference between 2 and 5. And that is 100% true. That is how much better Pat Mahomes is than number 2. It's not even close.
Oh, I think I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean,
it's not even close. Like, who's number 2 right now? If you need to go win a game right now, you don't have Pat Mahomes to choose from. Who are you choosing?
Burrow, if he's healthy.
Okay, but he hasn't been.
CJ Stroud.
Who?
I'd go with CJ Stroud.
Wow. So you're going with a rookie. Yeah. Think of that.
I'd go with CJ Stroud. Now, again, and now let me make it clear. Being in Houston, I do watch a lot of Texans games, right? So I do have the benefit of seeing him play week in, week out. But yeah, I would take CJ. If I had to win one game, and yeah, if you gave me one quarterback to win a game and it wasn't, and I couldn't have Pat Mahomes, I'd take CJ.
I might shock you. Shocked me with that answer, so I might shock you back. The guy I would take.
Don't say Brock Purdy.
Stafford.
Oh, that's it. You know what? Look, I
take Stafford.
That's a hot dude. That's not crazy. I like that take. I like that take.
I mean, how you can't take Josh Allen? He hasn't won. Okay, Burrow, if healthy, we could discuss that, right? Yeah. Lamar Jackson hasn't.
Of course, you could knock Matt Stafford a little bit too because he's been banged up a lot here in the last few years.
He has been, but you know what? You talk about this guy in Detroit his whole life and pretty much made them relevant even when they sucked. They were still kind of relevant because of him. And the first year he's out of there, he wins the Super Bowl.
Look, I had Matt Stafford, and look, all you fantasy fucking football nerds out there, myself included, there was about a 5-year stretch where Matt Stafford was one of the best fantasy quarterbacks. I mean, I used to say he was a poor man's Aaron Rodgers, right? But we just never knew because he was, rotting away in Detroit, where we just expect, and it was basically one of those deals where it was like Gladys Knight and the Pips, where, okay, he's going to put up big numbers, but they're going to lose. And that's just the way that's just the way the Detroit Lions are. So I like that take. I don't think that's a good one. I like Matt Stafford. I really do.
Think about it now. Think about it. And there's nothing against Matt Stafford. I like him too. But think about that. If you have to choose one quarterback, okay, and you don't have access to Pat Mahomes, you chose CJ Stroud. I took Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I'm not taking Lamar Jackson.
I'm not taking Lamar Jackson. I don't dislike him as a quarterback, but win a big game, my life gun to the head, have to win? No way.
No.
No way, Josh Allen. No way. No way. No way, Dak Prescott. Forget. Forget. I'll tell you, I'll take it a step further. No way, Aaron Rodgers. If I have to win a big game. Guys won once. He's lost championship games at home. He lost a game at home to Detroit on a Sunday night. He needed to win to make the playoffs. Okay. Stafford's won one Super Bowl. Rodgers has won one Super Bowl. Okay. If I need a great quarterback regular season, Aaron Rodgers. If I need a great quarterback to win one game, I'm taking Stafford.
I'm going to tease this because you and I are going to have a lot to talk about in the offseason. And I'm going to tease this, and you and I will talk about it probably after the combine. Is Aaron Rodgers the most overrated quarterback in NFL history?
Oh, God.
And just don't answer it. Don't answer it. I'm just going off of what you just said, and I've thought about it time and time again, and I don't want to be a hot take hyperbole guy, but when you explain it like that Aaron Rodgers has the same number of Super Bowls as Matt Stafford, and you needed a game to win, if we're really being honest with ourselves, and like you said, Matt Stafford's never had until he got to the Rams, has never had the support outside of Calvin Johnson, has never had a running game, has never had an offensive line, has been with one of the most comically tragic franchises in not just the NFL, but sports history. And yet on the flip side of that, you got the guy who's literally been on, what do they call it? Titletown USA. Okay.
I mean, he's lost big home games. I can't kill him for losing the NFC Championship game to Brady. I'm not going to kill him for that, right? But he's lost big home. He's lost the NFC Championship game to the Giants, Eli Manning. Okay. He lost a divisional round home game in the snow to Garoppolo. He lost a Thursday night must-win to get in against Goff.
Yeah.
All home. All of these games are at home. So to me, boy, I mean, you're not making a great living going against Aaron Rodgers very often, but we're talking about one game to win. Nah, he's not my guy. He's not.
Tell you what, because look, we have the Lamars of the world, the Herberts of the world, the Josh Allens of the world have all been crucified for losing the way you just mentioned your boy Aaron Rodgers has. So it's an interesting, and like I said, we'll delve into this a little bit more as the season goes on because I want to put some stats behind it like you just did. So we'll get into that. And like I said, we'll talk more about that as the season goes on. Let me ask you this. All right, so we're a couple weeks away from the combine, and like I said, we'll get into all that stuff later. But the NFL's over. Now we get hot and heavy into college basketball because let's be honest, Chris, we've really only got about a month before Selection Sunday. Yep. And, it's been a very weird college basketball season. I mean, yeah, you've had the Purdue's, you've had the UConns of the world, but you've had a lot of top 10 teams lose on the road. I mean, I think it's the most losses in 20, 25 years for top 10 teams losing on the road. I mean, it seems like every week a different top 10 team loses. What's kind of the, what are you and your team working on and kind of how busy and kind of how important is these next 4 to 6 weeks for you?
This is a grind. Here's the difference between college basketball, even the NBA, basketball as a whole, as opposed to football. In football, the lines come out 7 days prior, right? So you have a lot of time to research, prepare, go over things. Basketball, you don't have that luxury. Basketball, the lines come out maybe, I don't know, game started 12 o'clock today. They were out at 5 o'clock last night. So what's that? 19 hours to, 18 hours, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And you have a lot more games to break down. College football Saturday is a lot of games, but not like college basketball Saturday. So, we start our workday at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. My staff is here at 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays, Friday night, Saturday morning. I mean, and we're grinding, just trying to find mismatches in the line. They exist. Making sure we're going over everything. Yeah, some games you throw out, those 20-point favorites. People don't need to pay us for that. They can pick a 20-point favorite on their own. But look, your neck of the woods game today, two of them. Well, one your team and one your neck of the woods. Houston and Texas is going to be an interesting game today. Houston's a big favorite, but look, Texas, is able to play a good game. I think Texas will be able to hang in that game. Texas is an underrated basketball team. I'm not saying they're going to win a national title, but they can hang with good teams. And now what is Kansas on the road? I mean, after just losing by 100 to Texas Tech earlier in the week, they haven't played well on the road all year, and now they got Oklahoma today. So there's some tough games
coming off a loss, right? So you got an Oklahoma team coming off a loss. You got a KU team that offensively has just been out of sorts. I'm not sure if Kevin McCullough's playing today. I know he made the trip. I know he was practicing.
Yep.
He hasn't played in a week, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if it's a game time decision or not. Do you know what the line is on that game?
2.5.
Give me KU.
Is that a homer pick? Hey, listen, you got to be careful with some games like that because it's just the way it is. You don't know how they are on the road. It's why are they playing so well at home? And they are. They beat some good teams at home, and then they just show up on the road and get their asses kicked. So it's and then there's a couple other teams that you just cannot be figured out. Like you look at Texas A&M. Played a great game against Tennessee last week. They're making threes all over the place. They made more threes in that game than they made in the prior 2 games that they had played. And then what do? They show up at Vanderbilt. They can't shoot. Vanderbilt sucks. And they lose the game outright. So you have teams in college basketball you have to be careful of. But that's what we do, man. I don't know if you see the bags of I've been here since.
I was going to say, man, it almost sounds like basketball season's more of a grind than football season.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I demand my guys. I have 15 guys here to work and break down games, man. Hey, we got to work. We got to grind. If people are paying us for our hard work, well, we better work hard. So, that's what we do.
All right. So real quick, before we sign off, where can folks find, obviously, takingvegas.com or I know they can text WIN at 545454.
Yeah, you can text the word WIN to the number 545454. Not every day there's free picks on that, but a good number of the days is there. And then takingvegas.com, bread and butter there. Website's doing really well. 6 really talented handicappers on there that work their asses off to win as many games as they could possibly win, and for a cheap price, man. They only charge $29 a day, those guys. I got to know all 6 of them, and they're great guys. So we have that. And then obviously what we do here at the advisory service, we do Sports Investors Daily. We're off today. I always give the radio show the week off after the Super Bowl just to kind of let everyone settle back down, and then into the winter grind and college basketball and the NBA and on into baseball. So takingvegas.com, or like I said, you can text the word win to the number 545454.
Do it now. The one, the only Chris Hodge, takingvegas.com. Text win to 545454. You will be glad that you did. Chris and I'll be on a regular basis starting this next week. And of course, we'll release more information about that. Like I said, everybody's kind of with it being the end of the season. And of course, we got some stuff we're working on as well behind the scenes. So stay tuned for all of that. takingvegas.com. Don't forget to subscribe to Chief Studios as well. Holler at my boy Tab. And then, of course, we're going to have some more football stuff as the season wears on. We're going to do some Chief stuff and all that good thing and what have you. So, and then I'll be on ESPN 97.5 this upcoming Friday from 12 to 3. So, and of course, no F-bombs or anything like that. We got to keep everything PG on the radio, Chris.
What city?
How that goes. So,
what city?
Here in H-Town.
Oh, nice.
That's right. ESPN 97.5 here in Houston. You can find me there from time to time, like I said. So, I try to stay somewhat, you do radio every week. I get it. It's an old medium, but there's just, as you know, Chris, there's just something old school and fun about when that light goes hot and mics are hot. It's time to shine, and you just can't go anywhere else but radio with that. So, anywho, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, nice little Saturday morning. We appreciate Chris's time this morning. Like I said, Sports Investors Daily will be back on next Saturday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Be sure to tune into that. You will be glad that you did. For the one, the only Chris Hodge from takingvegas.com, I'm still that dude, Freddie D, the Fred Davis, from New York to Houston and all points in between. Everybody have a wonderful Saturday. Good day. God bless.
Do you do anything?